A wise man doesn't love a million girls. He loves one girl in a million ways. And so essentially, when a man is truly in love with you, the words that he speaks will sound like music to your ears. But I want you to recognize the notes when they play. And so I'm going to lay out for you 7 things that he'll say when he's deeply in love with you. Right off the bat, let's get to it. Number one is, I'm on the way. So, what do I mean by that? Let me start with kind of a personal story. I remember once upon a time when I was younger and before I got more wise and more into God, talking about relationships, when I would talk about why or the difference between being a friend and being a relationship, I would always use this example of, if you're my friend, and when I say friend, we're just kicking it, dating, whatever. If you're my friend and you call me at night because you're feeling sick and you need some medicine, as your friend, I am not obligated to do this for you. I can choose to. I may not. But I don't feel the obligation there. However, when I am committed to you, and I will go even further, just being in love with you, because the reality is that sometimes as a man, you can be in love with a woman even if you're not yet with that woman. And when you are in love with her, there is a greater desire to now come to her rescue. There's a greater desire to show up when she needs you to show up. And yes, when you're committed to her, there's a greater need, or there's a greater obligation to be able to be her support in those times of need. So essentially, the him saying I'm on my way is to basically paint the picture of how he is going to want to be there for you when needed. Your shoulder to cry on, your Superman when you need help, all right? Because again, his love for you drives him to want to be the man you can depend on. And he wants to show that he's reliable. He wants to show that he's attentive to your needs. He wants to show that, yes, he's the guy that you can come to when you have any issue. And so he is going to be quick to, again, accommodate you. Now, listen, I always have to give various angles, all right? The fact that he is there for you, wants to be there for you, is going to do everything in his power to take care of your needs, doesn't mean he's going to be perfect. Doesn't mean he's not going to have moments or days where he simply can't. Now, I would argue that in days that he can't, he may still attempt to find other ways to alleviate your burden. So basically, if, let's say, for example, you're on the side of the road, your car broke down, your tire is flat, and he's literally in a position where he cannot come to you right now, well, then he will probably still try to get someone to come see, to come help you out, whatever the case may be. But again, we have to keep things in a realistic perspective. Some scenarios just don't allow that man to come to your rescue. Not because he doesn't want to, not because he isn't absolutely willing. There are just too many barriers, okay? So I do think, though some of you might be saying, of course, we know that. Well, not always. sometimes you can get lost in the moment and forget the fact that he's a human being with responsibilities, with limitations, and again, he may be unable at that moment. So when we are evaluating his willingness to be there for you, his usage of the words "I'm on my way," we have to consider that, okay, is he at least someone who tends to try? Is he for the most part making the effort, or does he for the most part shut you down in those moments? You know, make excuses, ignore you, not show any concern for you. That would be a different story. But ultimately, when he is deeply in love with you, saying I'm on your way will more than likely be in his vocabulary. Now, the second thing he'll say when he's deeply in love with you, and before I tell you what it is, be sure to subscribe to his channel and like this video, all right? So the second thing he'll say is, I love you. Now, again, some of you guys might be thinking, well, of course, if he's deeply in love, he'll say, I love you. Isn't that a no-brainer? Not exactly. I felt it was very important to include this and discuss this in this video because, one, I see so many scenarios in relationships where women are dating men or dealing with men that essentially may not be using those three words. All right, I love you. And it's one thing if we're at the very, very beginning of the relationship, right? Let's say we're a couple weeks in. Okay, I don't think anyone's expecting that you got to say I love you at that point. But I am a person who doesn't believe in time being the decider of what's too soon and too fast. I think there's a lot more we have to consider. However, the point is, in time, especially if you have already expressed your love to this man, if he is still unwilling or unable to say, I love you, that's a red flag. So before we get deeper into the red flag, let me say this. In the vast majority of cases, the man who is deeply in love with you is not going to have a problem saying, I love you. If anything, he's trying to hold it back in the sense that maybe he does think it's too soon. He doesn't want to run you off. So he's holding off and trying to measure when he can say this and it's safe, okay? But he damn sure doesn't have a problem saying it, especially after you're able to say it, especially after you guys have been months or are officially in a relationship. You know what I'm saying? Or again, years in, whatever, he's not gonna have a problem saying those words. And when you hear about these stories or see it, or some of you are living it, where these men just don't say it and they have every excuse in the book, we have to consider the red flags such as, okay, is this man truly just traumatized and needs healing and struggles when it comes to being expressive in that way? That is possible. I don't want to rule it out, right? However, we cannot allow that to be a scapegoat in the sense that, okay, fine, if that's the reason why you've yet to say it, I can understand your struggle. But then we got to work on that, because the reality is that if you are in the relationship and he is unable to express these words, in due time, if not already, it's going to start to make you feel insecure. It's going to create an unsettled feeling in this relationship. And you're going to also feel confused about where does he truly stand. And I know we always say, well, actions speak louder than words. They speak louder, but they should be accompanied by words as well. Like, if the man can show you the action but can't say the words, it's still a problem. And if he can say the words and doesn't show the actions, then it's definitely a problem. So they gotta go hand in hand in order for us to validate or be able to say with confidence, okay, this man does truly love you. So another thing to consider and this is another extension of the damage, all right? Because I've heard this before. I've seen some men, and when I say see, I mean I've even coached some, where their struggle to say I love you, their struggle to even make the relationship official stems from this experience of once they did that, everything went downhill, all right? Now, I would argue that it wasn't those words specifically alone that made it go downhill. It was probably those words plus other things on top of that we can discuss further, but, and just to shed some light on it, essentially maybe him becoming so emotionally needy in the relationship, him becoming emotionally stable, him not understanding how to handle his love for this woman. That probably played a bigger role than just the words, but I will co-sign and say, some men have legitly experienced the words itself causing the woman to be scared, causing the woman to be unsettled. So now again, is this an excuse to just not say it? No, it's an explanation, and we understand it, or we should try to understand it, but we have to work to correct it, because again, those words are very, very important and they need to be said in the relationship. If anything, I would argue they need to be practiced. Now, I also want to mention, because though I'm speaking on this whole when he's deeply in love with you, mainly from the angle of someone who's already engaged with you, possibly in a relationship or at least dating you, please understand that some of these things can apply as well to men who are not with you yet. They might be your friend. They might be a male friend. They might be an associate that is madly in love, and you don't understand the extent of his feelings, all right? And so these things that are said by a man who's in love with you, if you start to see this in a man who you're not with, You might want to, if you're interested, you might want to explore, you know what I'm saying, what's going on here. Because I would say that, yes, they lean towards he has feelings for you, all right? But to get back to the point, the words I love you are definitely words that a man that's in love with you will say. But again, there's been so much confusion surrounding this issue because of people who are dealing with situations where people struggle. Now, another aspect I want to add to this I love you thing, all right? And I will admit, I've seen this happen more with women, but it can happen with men too. Be mindful of when people twist the wordings in a way that it doesn't hit the same. What I mean by that is, some people, rather than say, I love you, they'll say, you are loved. Rather than say, I miss you, you were missed. Now, here's the thing. That may sound like that's not a big deal. What's the issue there? No, you got to understand what's happening on a deeper level here. It's almost like they can't own the emotion. Saying, I love you, I miss you, owns it, all right? Owns it and fully embraces it. Saying you were loved, you were missed, it's like this way of trying to give you those words, but they're not really, again, they're not owning it. Now, the reason why they're not owning it, it could stem from because they just don't really love you, or it could be their struggle to be expressive and to be vulnerable in that way. But I bring it up simply because if you start to notice that, where they don't use those words that own the statement, you've got to go deeper and look into, okay, what's going on here? Just don't think, oh, okay, no big deal. One word in the phrase doesn't make a big difference. No, it does. It can. It definitely can. So I love you again, definitely something that he will say when he deeply loves you. All right, so now that brings me to the next thing he will say when he deeply loves you, is that you are his girlfriend or his wife, or that simply it is official, all right? So what am I getting at here? I'm getting at, and I kind of touched on it in the previous point, the man who's deeply in love with you. And again, let's just focus on, this one is strictly on the guy who you have been dating, you have been seeing, all right? When he deeply loves you, he has no problem putting a label on the relationship, all right? Or making it completely official. Now, it's important you understand this, and it's important that you hear those words come out of his mouth, okay? Because I cannot tell you how many situations I have seen and dealt with where women have come to the assumption that this man is their boyfriend, that this is their man, that everything is official. But the man never spoke those words. And then somewhere along the line in the relationship, when she brings that up, or tries to hold him accountable to what a boyfriend should be held accountable to, he's like, who told y'all your boyfriend? I never agreed to that. I never told you that. And to you, it's like, but we've been kissing and hugging. We do all these boyfriend, girlfriend things. I met your parents, but I didn't tell you were my girl. I didn't tell you were my woman. So you've got to be mindful. I'm going to give one perfect example that a colleague just kind of told me about, where an individual they knew, they were dating a guy, or they met a guy, they started dating, and they met from online dating. All right. And so they meet in person. Everything's moving along. Let's say we're a month in. A month in, he tells her, well, I deleted my profile. I'm not seeing anyone else. You're the only girl I'm seeing. Okay. She comes back to my colleague and she says, oh yeah, we're in an official relationship. He's like, what do you mean? Did he tell you? She's like, no, he said he's not seeing anyone else. He deleted his profile. That doesn't mean that. And she ended up finding out that that's exactly the case. That did not mean we are in an official relationship. It meant exactly what he said. I'm not seeing anyone else. That does not mean I am officially 100% committed to you in the sense that I will not entertain anyone else. I know that seems really confusing, right? But this is why you've got to get the words. The words of, it is official, you're my girl. I threw in you're my wife in there because if it moves on to marriage, right, he's willing to introduce you in that manner. So that's the other thing to consider here. When you guys are in that relationship, he is going to introduce you as the title that you are. Like, there are many people who have experienced being introduced to others as, this is my friend. Like, we're supposed to be in a committed relationship and they said, this is my friend when they introduced. Now listen, when I laugh, if any of y'all are going through this, I am not laughing at you, all right? I'm just, it's just crazy situations to me, okay? But I feel your pain. Well, I understand your pain. But the reality is that, yes, this happens. And so, again, pay attention to stuff like that. The guy who loves you, the guy who's serious about you, he's not going to have a problem putting that label on you. He's not going to have a problem telling people, this is my woman, this is my girl, this is my wife, this is whatever. You know what I'm saying? He is going to honor you in that way. And not just honor you in that way, it's almost like he wants to show you off in that way. Like, he wants the world to know, yeah, she's with me. You know, and if he's not doing that, then no, you can't tell me the man's in love with you and he's unwilling to properly present you to the world. You know what I'm saying? And properly label what's going on in that situation. So again, be very, very mindful of that. All right, so let's keep this moving. The next thing, when a man's deeply in love with you, that he will say is, how are you feeling? Now, sounds very simple, but the point is, he cares about how you feel. That's the point here. At the end of the day, the man who is in love with you, as I mentioned earlier, wants to be the man who's there for you, that you can rely on, but is also going to be attentive to you. Is also going to be mindful of your concerns. Now, again, I feel the need to say, it doesn't mean the man will be perfect, because I will make the argument that men are naturally not as in tune as women. All right. So though they will show concern, they can't read your mind. And if you're expecting that to happen because, well, if he loved me, he would know what I'm thinking. He would be able to finish my sentences. Listen, like that, sometimes that can happen, but because it does not happen like that, don't go to assume, oh, he must not truly love me, must not be into me. He may still be trying to learn you. He may not understand the cues yet. He may not understand your body language yet. All these different things. It depends on how far along in the relationship that you are. But even if you are far along in the relationship, if you guys have not taken time to really get on the same page and properly communicate each other's needs, thoughts, how we react, how we see things, things like that, then there will still be a disconnect in that way. All right. And that's why it's very important to have those conversations rather than assume that someone should just be able to pick up on it by nature. Because in his mind, if you don't bring it up in conversation, if you don't make it a concern or an issue in any kind of way, then his assumption is everything's great. Like, what comes to mind right now is just kind of hitting my spirit. There's times where women have gotten to a place of really high frustration in a relationship, right? And they don't understand why this man doesn't get it. And then when you talk to him, man, he's like, yo, everything's good as far as I know. Like, I don't see anything wrong. And that only infuriates the woman even more. But the crazy thing is, he's actually being honest in some of these situations. In some of these situations, he just does. If you don't show him that in the way that he understands, he may not pick up on it. All right. Now, it isn't to excuse men from the need to be more attentive, the need to get more in tune with their partners, right? But it is to understand that because of the way men are wired and the way that we process things, we just may not pick up on things as well as the average woman does, all right? But getting back to the point here, he is going to be open and willing to hear how you feel. And he is going to be concerned about your feelings. But something else is hitting my spirit. I have to say this right now. Be very careful of what stage you set early on in the relationship. What I mean by that is this. There are men who started off very concerned and willing to ask you, how are you feeling? And wanting to help and wanting to make things better. But you may have, for various reasons, slid into the bad habit of, I'm good, it's nothing, it's no big deal, boom, boom, right? Kind of shutting down his attempts to dig deeper. And what will happen in many cases, not because he doesn't love you, But because he becomes conditioned to the fact that you shut things down or you're not open in that way, he stops asking. Because men, the mentality of the man is, if this does not get us anywhere, I'm not going to keep doing it. I'm not going to keep pushing and trying to get you to talk to me if you don't want to talk. And if I feel like you have a habit of not wanting to talk, then even when the next situation happens, I'm not going to make the same kind of attempt. But again, it is not out of a I don't care, so to speak. It is not out of a, I don't love you enough to be concerned about how you feel. It's about, you keep telling me you're good, so I just assume you're gonna take care of it. And I think it's important for every woman listening to understand this, because I think for many of you, especially for those of you who have had to be on your own or handle things on your own a lot, to where even when it comes to emotionally, you just process you're on your own and you take it upon yourself to get through it. You get trapped into this whole independent way of going about things, all right? Or it could be a struggle to just be vulnerable in that moment and open up because maybe previous men before him shut you down, showed unwillingness to listen, things of that nature. So you feel like it's a pointless thing to open up to a man in that way. And so you got to be mindful of if that is the case with you. Because again, however you start that relationship, and whatever you condition him to will become the norm in that relationship. If you want him to continue to show concern, continue to ask, how are you feeling? You have to be willing to open up. You have to be willing to be receptive in that moment. Even if, it doesn't mean you can't have moments where you genuinely don't feel like talking about it. But you've got to be able to express that, but then say, okay, let's talk about it later. The same way you would want the man to open up to you, you got to give him that same energy. You know what I'm saying? So be careful with that. Because it hit my spirit because I see it so often. I see it happen to so many people. And it really is a pitfall that can be avoided. Now, before I give you the next point, real quick, many of you are always asking me about coaching and how you can get healed and how you can tap into your feminine energy, finding your purpose, hearing God more clearly, just making your life overall better. Well, I got the special coaching program available for you. Get on it ASAP. You can go to www.receivingmyblessings.com or click the link in the comment section. Thousands of women have joined. Thousands of women have gotten immense benefit from it. And I know it can be helpful for you. So again, go to receivingmyblessings.com. So another thing men will start saying when they deeply love you, or a man will start saying when he deeply loves you, is, I want to make you happy. All right? At some point in the relationship, and again, don't hold men to like those exact specific, I want to make you happy. But there's going to be an expression of, I want to see you happy. I want to make you happy. How can I make you happy? What makes you happy? Essentially, a concern and desire for you to experience happiness with him. All right? And for him to want to have an understanding of the role he can play in achieving that. You know what I'm saying? How he can pour into you. Essentially, he is going to be in tune or want to embrace your needs and desires in this relationship. Listen, when you are dealing with a man who is only selfish or who is too selfish, and it's mainly all about him and not what he can do for you, that is not a man who loves you. And I have to say that because I see women getting caught up in relationships, claiming it's love, and it's a completely one-sided affair. It is, or at the very least, very lopsided. Where, yeah, you're giving, but he doesn't pour back. And let me make clear, what we give and receive from each other can vary, all right? What the man needs from the woman is not always exactly what the woman needs from the man. So we're not looking for this completely even exchange of exact things that we give to each other. We're looking for reciprocity in the sense of, I give to you, give to me. Give and take both ways, where we both feel fulfilled, happy, and satisfied in this relationship. So the concern for your happiness is going to be there when he truly loves you, and he is going to be open to what it takes to achieve that. All right, so we got 2 more to go. And the next one on this list that I have is, he will say words like we, us, are. So essentially, the man who is in love with you, and again, this goes back to someone who's already engaging with you, because I think it might be a little weird for the guy who's just your friend to be talking about we, are, and us, where he talks about future, which it can happen. Don't get me wrong, it can happen. But, you know, he's not going to have that liberty to speak like that to you. But the guy who's already dealing with you, yes, he's not thinking from a I mindset, all right? Me, what I got going on, what I'm doing. It's about us. It's about team. It's about how we're going to move forward together, grow together, and all these different things. So pay attention to the man who includes you in his future plans. Pay attention to the man who wants to include you in various aspects of his life. So even using the words we, are, us goes into the desire to bring you into his world, or the desire to include you in various activities. Maybe like he wants you to come, something that's just coming to my mind. If he's a part of a sports league, like he plays softball on the weekends or whatever, like he may want you to come check him out, unless he like sucks and just doesn't want to get embarrassed. But that's a different issue, right? But if he's a decent player, he probably wants you to come. You know what I'm saying? He wants you to see him in action. He wants your support. He wants to be able to impress you in those moments. So there's a greater desire for togetherness, all right? And there's a greater desire to bond on various levels, and not just in the actions that we take, but the way we speak about each other. So we, us, are, and things of that nature is something else that the man who loves you will say. All right, and so the last thing, but you know me, I got a bonus message after this, right? But the last thing on this specific list that I'm gonna mention for today is let's talk, all right? Now again, variations can include talk to me, I want to talk to you, I would like to hear your voice, things of that nature. The point being made is that he wants to communicate with you. He enjoys being able to talk to you. And I would say this, he enjoys talking to you more than other women, all right? And when I say other women, I don't mean like other women he's dating. But yeah, other women he's dated in the past, other women in general, like you're his go-to, you know? And again, when he's truly in love, because there's that desire, the point I made earlier, there's that desire to bond. There's that desire for togetherness that draws us to each other. And communication is an intimate act. And when the love is there, there's an understanding of that intimacy to a certain extent. Now, again, some men do struggle when it comes to communication, but I don't know if I've ever seen a man who was in love with a woman who was not open to talking to her, who did not enjoy talking to her to some degree. Now, again, there are men who, this might step on some toes, there are men who love their woman, who care about her, right? And they don't like talking to her. They don't like having long conversations or anything like that with her. It's like, no. And I can make the argument that yes, because loving someone and being in love, or if we go further, having a connection with them, is two different things. And so there may be he values her, he respects her, but they don't have that deeper bond, that deeper connection that draws them together in a way that makes him want to talk to her, all right? So when you see couples that don't have that communication, but they're staying together, very well, that could be the case, all right? That, again, there might be some love there, but they're not in love with each other. And though some may say, well, that should be good enough, no, I'm not gonna co-sign that. I want you guys to experience the best love that's for you. I want you to experience that deeper love. I want you to experience that connection. And with that guy, there is going to be the ability to talk and desire to talk, but also saying, let's talk, also is to highlight the fact that, again, his willingness to discuss issues when they come up with you, his willingness to want to resolve things with you and bring harmony to the situation. He wants to make things right, all right? And the only exception that can come to mind, and I have to always bring this up, is, again, if this man is damaged and has not healed, that can impact his ability to have proper communication. That is not an excuse or that is not a reason to look past the issue. is just to understand why it exists, but then there has to be a willingness to fix it. So, okay, I have to throw this in, right? Because again, I'm always concerned about someone watching the video, taking the video, but not keeping it sometimes in proper context, right? And I think it's important to mention that when you are trying to understand if the man deeply loves you and you're paying attention to these words that we talked about, the things that he'll say, one, you have to really first make sure, are you deeply in love with him? All right? If you are trying to choose men to be with or stay with based on how much they love you without checking yourself about if you truly love them, you are setting yourself up for failure. All right? That love has to exist within you first for there to be the potential of greatness here. And if it's not, it's gonna fall apart because now it is a version of being unequally yoked. A version, because that's not the actual definition of being unequally yoked. But I'm using that phrase to simply to highlight the fact that there's an imbalance here. All right? And when there's an imbalance, it's going to show itself in due time and it's going to destroy that relationship. Some people will say, or they've told women, find a man who loves you more than you love him. And I will always tell you that's the worst advice ever. All right? Because if you can even begin to quantify that he loves you more, then that is a clear sign you're not in love with him. And if you are not in love with him, you are going to be unable to pour into him the way that he needs. You're going to be unable to truly be happy and satisfied in the long run with this man. The cracks will start to show and then the whole thing will bust wide open. So again, check yourself about how you feel with this man. But then also, make sure you're not just waiting for his words, but you're using your own. All right? You have to be expressive with your love. You've got to pour into him in that way. Listen, men can be just as scared as women, if not more in some situations, especially when there are genuine, or even more specifically, when there are genuine, strong feelings involved. And he's being cautious and he's trying to evaluate, well, damn, does she love me? Is she really into me? Is it safe to say I love you yet? Is it safe to be all, at her beck and call? I don't want to say at her beck and call. That does, but be available to her in a way that shows her that you have her back. All right? Because for some men, that can be scary because that can lead to getting used. If the woman is not truly into him, then that can lead to him being taken advantage of. So again, I say all this to say, men and women unfortunately have their walls up. My goal is to get everyone to bring their walls down. But in order for there to be success in any relationship, we have to hold ourselves accountable first for what we can do better and how we need to better approach the situation. So making sure that you are also being expressive and saying, using your loving words towards him and expressing desire is what's going to help nurture the situation so it can grow into that amazing thing it can be. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. So they say when a man wants a woman, nothing will stop him from pursuing her. Well, that's not completely true, all right? And not only is it not true, it's creating